Imagine finding your absolute dream home, only to discover it was sold in a secret market before you even knew it existed.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like a total conspiracy theory, honestly.
It really does, but it is happening constantly in today's real estate market.
All the time.
And right now, real estate agents, massive tech portals, and state governments are locked in this all-out civil war over billions of dollars of hidden real estate.
Oh, absolutely.
Because state governments are suddenly cracking down hard on this practice. They are moving aggressively to crush these secret markets, which the industry calls private listing networks or pocket listings.
Right, pocket listings.
Yeah. So just to give you an idea of how fast this is moving, Connecticut Governor Ned Lamont just signed Senate Bill 340 into law on May 27th. And this law straight up forces real estate agents to make residential home listings public at the exact same time they market them anywhere else.
No more hiding them.
Exactly. If an agent puts a sign in the yard or, sends out an email blast, they have to open the listing to the public, period.
And Connecticut is definitely not the only state dropping the hammer right now.
Not at all. New York lawmakers just passed the Fair and Transparent Real Estate Listings Act, which is literally sitting on the governor's desk waiting for a signature.
Wow.
Yeah. Washington and Wisconsin already passed similar laws enforcing strict public access. Meanwhile, states like Illinois and Hawaii are actively debating their own versions of these transparency rules. State governments are just snatching the power away from local real estate boards.
Which, I mean, that completely changes the landscape of how homes are bought and sold in this country.
Exactly. So that is our mission for this deep dive. We are unpacking the facts behind this massive fight over pocket listings. And look, before we get too far, we have to make something very clear.
Yeah, the politics of it.
Right. This debate involves incredibly politically charged arguments. You have government regulation on one side versus free market consumer choice on the other.
Both sides are very passionate.
Highly passionate. So, to be clear to you, the listener, we are taking absolutely zero sides here. Our goal is strictly impartial. We are just unpacking the facts and arguments from proposed state laws, industry policy rules, and the fierce debates between real estate giants like Zillow, Compass, and Brown Harris Stevens.
Because if you don't understand the mechanics of this hidden market well, you are basically flying blind, whether you were trying to buy a house or sell one.
So let's start with the basics of how this actually operates. I kind of originally thought about this like a secret menu at a fast food restaurant.
Correct. Yeah.
You can only order the special burger if you know the right people or belong to the right club. But as I read through the sources, that feels a little too innocent. It's bigger than that, right?
Oh, a lot bigger. I mean, a better analogy might actually be Wall Street.
Okay, how so?
Well, imagine a stockbroker who matches trades internally within their own firm, what they call a dark pool, instead of putting the trade on the open stock exchange where the client might get a better price.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Right. So to understand a private listing, you first have to understand the normal system. Usually, an agent puts a house on a massive public database called the Multiple Listing Service.
The MLS.
Right, the MLS.
Yeah.
And once it hits the MLS, it feeds out to thousands of public websites for the whole world to see. But with a private listing, an agent keeps the home completely off those public sites.
They just hide it.
Exactly. They only share it with a select, curated network of buyers.
Which usually means buyers who are represented by the exact same brokerage that is selling the house.
Yes. You literally have to be in their specific network to even know the house is for sale.
Okay, so my immediate reaction to that is just pure skepticism. I mean, why in the world would a seller want to hide their home from buyers? Don't you want as many eyeballs as possible?
That is the logical assumption, right? But sellers choose this path because they desperately want privacy and control.
Okay, privacy.
Yeah, imagine a seller is going through a really terrible divorce, or they're dealing with a severe financial crisis.
Right.
Or maybe they're just a local celebrity.
Right. They don't want their nosy neighbors marching through their living room during a Sunday open house.
Exactly. And they don't want photos of their bedrooms plastered all over the internet forever.
Okay. I get the privacy angle. That makes sense. But the sources mention another major reason, which is testing aspirational prices. Walk me through that, because that is fascinating.
This is all about the algorithms on big public websites. So when a house hits the open market, this giant digital clock starts ticking immediately.
The days on market clock.
Right. Days on market. If you price your house way too high in aspirational price, nobody buys it. The days just tick by. 30 days, 60 days. Eventually, you have to drop the price.
And when you drop the price on a public site, Every single buyer who saved that home gets a notification. It makes the seller look kind of desperate.
Oh, yeah. Buyers smell blood in the water and start lowballing.
Right.
The public websites attach a permanent negative data history to the house. But if you keep the listing private, that clock never starts.
Oh. So you can float a huge, crazy number to a private network.
Yes.
Yeah.
And if nobody bites, you just quietly drop the price before finally putting it on the open MLS. You test the waters without ever looking desperate to the public.
That is incredibly clever.
It really is. You also protect your property data from third-party websites that might, flag the house for environmental threats or push buyers toward agents who just paid the website for advertising space.
And there is actual data to back this up. The Brokerage Compass released some really staggering statistics.
They did.
In February 2025, 55% of all Compass listings started as private exclusives or coming soon listings.
What a half.
Over half. They kept more than half of their inventory off the main public market at first, and Compass claims these private listings closed 20% faster, had a 2.9% higher closing price, and were 30% less likely to see price drops.
I mean, those numbers paint a very strong picture that private networks are a massive benefit to the seller.
They do, but I have to push back here because those numbers honestly make zero sense to me.
How so?
Well, basic economics says less competition means a lower price. If a seller restricts who can buy their house, doesn't that actively prevent a bidding war? Like, how are sellers supposedly making more money by talking to fewer people?
That is the exact question the critics are screaming from the rooftops right now. Zillow's researchers looked at this and came to a completely different conclusion.
Okay, what did Zillow find?
They calculated the actual cost of shrinking that buyer pool. According to Zillow, sellers who kept their homes off the open market left more than $1 billion on the table in 2023 and 2024.
Wait, $1 billion?
Over $1 billion. Zillow argues that by limiting the number of people who know a house is for sale, you severely limit your chances of finding that one buyer who is willing to pay way over asking price.
Just because they desperately love the house?
Exactly. Less competition almost always guarantees a lower final sale price.
Okay, so Compass says sellers make more, Zillow says sellers lose billions. But leaving money on the table is only one part of the argument. The sources point to something much more serious, which is the systemic impact on the community. Fair housing violations.
Yeah, this is where the battle gets incredibly tense. Fair housing advocates argue that limiting who sees a home actively reinforces systemic segregation.
Break that down for me. How does a pocket listing lead to segregation?
Well, historically, real estate was often segregated by keeping listings off public boards. So only certain, approved buyers knew what was for sale.
Right.
The whole point of the public MLS was to democratize access, so anyone with the money could buy the house. If you take homes off the public market and hide them in private networks, you deny equal housing opportunities to the general public.
You're effectively building a wall around certain neighborhoods and only letting your club members inside.
You are creating a gatekeeper.
And the sources have a shocking real-world example of how this gatekeeping plays out right now.
The New York case.
Yes. There was a buyer in New York searching for a home. They found out about a private listing that they absolutely loved. They had the money, they were ready to go, but the listing agent completely blocked them from seeing the house.
Just refused to open the door. Why?
Because the buyer refused to fire their current broker. The listing agent demanded that the buyer drop their own agent and join the listing agent's private network.
Wow.
And the buyer said, "No, I like my agent." And because of that, they were shut out entirely. The seller probably had absolutely no idea this willing, qualified buyer was turned away at the front door.
Which brings us to the underlying mechanism driving all of this, the commission split. And it raises a massive issue regarding fiduciary duty.
Right. An agent has a legal fiduciary duty to act in the best interest of their client, the seller.
Exactly. But let's look at how agents get paid. Usually a seller pays a commission, say 6% of the sale price. If the home is on the open market, the listing agent keeps 3%. And they have to give the other 3% to whatever outside agent brings the buyer.
But if they keep it in a private network?
If they keep it in a private network and find a buyer who is represented by their own brokerage, they do not have to split the check with an outside agent.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the brokerage gets to keep the entire 6% pie.
That is a massive financial incentive to hide the house. I mean, does the private network really help the seller get the best deal? Or does it just allow the real estate agent to double their money by keeping it in-house?
That is the billion-dollar question. And what is really interesting is that the real estate industry actually saw this happening. They saw the fair housing complaints and the lawsuits over breach fiduciary duties piling up.
Right.
So before the state governments ever started writing these new laws, the industry tried to police itself.
They try to fix it internally. How?
Well, the National Association of Realtors, which is a massive trade group that runs the industry, created something called the Clear Cooperation Policy.
Okay.
This was an internal rule that basically said you cannot have it both ways. If you market a property publicly, you must submit it to the public MLS within one single business day.
And marketing publicly means anything, right? Putting a sign in the yard, posting a video on social media, sending a flyer in the mail. If you do any of that, the clock starts ticking. One business day to put it on the public database.
Right. The goal was to force a cooperative, transparent marketplace.
And they put actual penalties in place to back this up. If an agent breaks the Clear Cooperation rule, they face an immediate $30 fine.
Which doesn't sound like much.
No, but it gets worse because they get hit with another $30 fine for every single day they leave the violation uncured.
And it wasn't just the trade association enforcing this. The massive consumer websites drew a line in the sand, too. Zillow and Redfin recently instituted policies banning private listings from their platforms entirely if the home has been publicly marketed but kept off the official MLS.
They essentially shadow banned the listings.
Exactly.
Zillow actually ran a survey with the Harris poll, and they found that 81% of adults said they want listings viewable for free to the public. People clearly want transparency.
But here's the problem. And this explains why the state governments are getting involved now. The industry's internal rules were not actually stopping the practice. Brokerages just found loopholes.
I saw this in the sources. The office-exclusive loophole.
Yes.
If an agent gets a seller to sign a piece of paper saying they want privacy, the agent can share the listing internally within their own brokerage.
Yes. And we need to explain the scale of this because it is crucial.
Go for it.
20 years ago, an office exclusive meant a broker told the 5 other agents sitting in their small brick-and-mortar office about a house. It was tiny. But today, the real estate industry has consolidated into massive corporate giants. A company like Compass has tens of thousands of agents across the entire country.
So an office exclusive is not just a bulletin board in the break room anymore. It is essentially a giant shadow database operating parallel to the public market.
Exactly. They built their own private MLS using that exact loophole. And because these loopholes exist, and because internal $30 fines were clearly not solving the fair access problem, the state governments lost patience.
And this brings us right back to our news hook. This is exactly why Connecticut and New York are not waiting around for the real estate boards anymore. They are taking these industry transparency rules and turning them into actual enforceable state laws.
It shifts the power completely.
It really does.
Yeah.
It is no longer a trade group handing out a daily fine. It is the government saying it is straight up illegal to hide a listing while publicly marketing it.
And this legislative shift is creating an absolute civil war among the top executives in the industry, especially in places like New York City, which, operates entirely on its own wavelength.
The New York City exception is wild. The state laws are going to hit hard there because they don't even use the national system.
Right. New York City is basically its own country when it comes to real estate. They do not use the National Association of Realtors. They use their own group, the Real Estate Board of New York.
RBNY.
Yep, RBNY. And instead of the national MLS, they have the RLS, the Residential Listing Service.
And the big public website everyone uses in the city is StreetEasy. StreetEasy operates on a very strict rule. Any listing that is publicly advertised must be posted on their public site within 24 hours. The battle lines there are incredibly fierce.
It has deeply divided the biggest leaders in real estate. On one side, you have executives like Bess Friedman, the CEO of Brown Harris Stevens. She strongly supports these new state transparency laws.
Okay, what is her argument?
She argues that private networks limit competition and lock consumers out of a fair market. She views these laws as an absolute necessity to protect buyers from discrimination and to ensure sellers actually get the highest price through open competition.
But then you have Compass fighting fiercely on the other side. They argue that sellers should have the absolute right to protect their data.
Yes, the privacy argument.
Right. They believe homeowners should not be forced by the government to feed their personal property information to giant public portals that might manipulate or monetize that data for their own profit. They frame this entirely as a matter of basic consumer choice.
Both sides are pointing at you, the consumer, and saying we are doing this to protect you. But their methods are entirely opposite.
So how do you navigate this? If you are listening to this right now and getting ready to enter the market, You need to know how to handle this secret menu system. Let's make this actionable.
If you are selling a house and your agent pitches you on the idea in an exclusive private network,
Yeah.
your alarm bells need to ring. You have to ask them direct questions.
Like